Hello all, welcome to Paritranaya. In the previous class, we started with the center-state relations, and within center-state relations, we discussed about the legislative relations between the center and the state. So, in the legislative relations, we broadly discussed that as per the seventh schedule, it consists of three lists. One is list 1, which is also called as union list, and list 2, which is also called as state list, and list 3, which is also called as concurrent list. So we saw that laws on list 1 can be made by the center, and laws on list 2 can be made by the states, and laws on list 3 subjects can be made by both center as well as states. And in case of discrepancies between the central law and state law on the concurrent list, which one will prevail? Center's law will prevail. So all these things we discussed in the previous class. So in this class, we will be discussing about the administrative relations, or we can also call it as executive powers or executive relations. So what is executive power? Executive power or administrative power. So when we say legislation, it means making laws. But when I say executive power, it means implementing the laws, implementing the policies. At the central level, who exercises the executive power? Or executive. So Council of Ministers headed by Prime Minister plus President. So they are our main executive at the central level. So at the state level, Council of Ministers headed by Chief Minister plus Governor. So they are the main executives at the state level. So here, whenever we use the term executive, we should only imagine about the Council of Ministers headed by Prime Minister and President, and Council of Ministers headed by Chief Minister and Governor. We should not consider about the permanent executives like IAS and IPS officers. Okay, in order to make our discussions easier. So, executive powers. Now let us take an example. In the union list, so we have a subject called as banking. Okay, so banking is present in union list. Next, in state list, let us consider the subject as health. Next, in concurrent list, let us take education. Okay, education. Okay, so we know that on banking related, who can make laws? Center can make laws. Who can make laws on health? State. Who can make laws on education? Both center as well as state. Now next the question arises, who will implement the laws related to banking? Who will implement the laws related to health? Who will implement the laws related to education? Because laws who can make, we have seen, but who will implement it? So when it comes to subject of union list, so these subjects will be implemented by the central government. So here we see center's executive power. So matters of union list. So now banking is a matter of union list. So implementation of the banking related things is a responsibility of the central executive. That is Council of Ministers headed by Prime Minister. So implementing means, for example, now new creation of new bank or recruitment of people in the banking. So all this is the responsibility of central government. Next, so the executive power of center extends to whole of India. The executive power of center extends to whole of India. Now, who will implement the laws related to health? So health related laws can be made in the state government. So let us assume in Karnataka, we have made a law related to health. So who will implement this law related to health? So Karnataka state government, that is Karnataka's Council of Ministers headed by Chief Minister. So they will be responsible to implementing the law related to health, because as we see here, state's executive power extends to matters of state list, and health falls under the state list. And when it comes to implementation, whether it applies to whole of India, no, extends to its territory. So when Karnataka is implementing the law related to health, then that implementation will be confined to Karnataka itself, not beyond Karnataka. So very interesting point here to note is, when it comes to education, which is a concurrent list subject. So we know that both center and state can make laws. center and state can make laws. Okay, state can make laws, but who will implement it? Okay, by default, state will implement it. By default, state will implement. That is what we see here. So matters of concurrent list, they are implemented by state. So state's executive power extends to the matters of concurrent list. It means by default, any education related act will be implemented by state government. But there is an exception. What is that exception? Exception is whenever constitution or a parliament law specifically confers it on center. It means if the center, while making the law, if it says that it has to be implemented by the center, then that law will be implemented by the center. If while making the law, if center does not specify anything that who should implement it, then by default state will implement it. Okay. Otherwise, if it is explicitly mentioned, then center will implement. Otherwise, by default state will implement. Okay. So very important, very important. Next, apart from this, in this topic we will also be studying about the obligation of the states and the center, and center's directions to the states, and also mutual delegation of functions. Mutual delegation of functions. So at a superficial level, we saw the distribution of executive powers or the distribution of administrative powers. Administrative powers. Next, obligation of the states and the center. So state has to oblige, state has to listen to the center in few of the matters. So which are those matters? Just we shall look at the superficial level. So exercise of executive power of state. So executive power of state, here for time being, just forget about governor also. Just imagine council of ministers. So let us assume, I will not explicitly specify chief minister also. So council of ministers at state. So council of ministers also includes chief ministers. So when I say executive power of state, so it means I am referring to council of ministers at the state. At the state. So here we have center. So when I say central council of ministers, central government, council of ministers at the center. Council of ministers at the center. Next, when state government is exercising its power, when state government is implementing something, so while implementing, it should comply with the parliamentary laws. So whatever the laws the parliament has made, so those laws it has to adhere to. So without adhering to the parliamentary laws, so council of ministers cannot work. So it has to adhere to the whatever the laws the center has made. Okay. Laws the center has made. Next, not to impede or prejudice the exercise of executive power of center in the state. So sometimes in a let us consider the example of Karnataka itself. So council of ministers at the center will also be working in the state on few aspects. At the same time, council of ministers at the state level, so they will also be working. So whatever the work they are doing, council of ministers at the state level, they should not cause any kind of impediment to the work that is being done by council of ministers at the center. It means whatever the work the center is doing, so that work should not get any kind of problem from the state government, So that itself. Next, article number 365 says that if there is failure to comply, then it will be interpreted as failure of constitutional machinery. Then article 356 can be imposed. It means, just understand at the superficial level, state in few matters, states have to listen to the center. So states have to work as per the directions of the center. And if states do not work as per the direction of the center, then it will be interpreted as failure of constitutional machinery. And whenever there is a failure of constitutional machinery, then the center has the power to impose precedence rule. So what is that precedence rule? Who can impose it? How long it will stay? So what will be its effect? All those things we will be discussing in detail when we start discussing about a topic called as emergency. But at the superficial now level, we shall understand that states is supposed to listen to the center in few of the matters, and it has to adhere to it. And if a state fails to adhere to the center's directions, then that will be interpreted as failure of constitutional machinery by the center, and center can impose precedence rule on the state. Next, apart from the above things, center can also give directions to the states in these following matters. Okay, so when state is working in the following matters, center can give directions to it. So what is that? So with respect to communication of national or military importance. So what does it mean? So let us consider an example, Jammu and Kashmir. So in Jammu and Kashmir, we will be having communication related infrastructure. For example, now our military will be using some towers for communication, some infrastructure for communication. So in that case, center will give a direction to Jammu and Kashmir government. What it says? It says that you should safeguard the towers which are present in Jammu and Kashmir, because these towers are very much important for the military communication. So these towers are very much important for the national safety. So protection of them is your responsibility. So such kind of directions can be given by the center to the states, okay, by the states. Next, railways protection. We know, so railways, the property of railways, it belongs to whom? Central government or state government? Obviously, it belongs to central government. But center can ask the states to protect the railways, and their infrastructure. Next, linguistic minorities. So who are linguistic minorities? For example, if we take Karnataka as an example, then the northern part of Karnataka have a few population speaking Marathi. So they are called as linguistic minorities in Karnataka. So special provision has to be made. That is, in the primary stage of education, they have to learn in their what? In their mother tongue. They have to learn in mother tongue. So if there is no constitutional provision, then probably state governments may not be interested in implementing such policies. But center has the power to direct the states that you have to implement a policy wherein mother tongue is used in the instruction in the primary stage of education, especially to help the linguistic minorities. Okay? Minorities. So similarly, center can give directions to the state in order to ensure scheduled tribes welfare. Okay? Scheduled tribes welfare, and also it may give direction to implement specific schemes. So here also the sanction is coercive. That is, center will give the directions to the states to protect the communication infrastructure of national importance, railways, and all these things. But in this case also, if states do not obey to the center's directions, if state does not adhere to the center's directions, then what the center can do? Here also, center can interpret it as failure of constitutional machinery, and it can impose precedence rule. That is why it becomes very important on part of state governments to implement the directions that have been given by the center in few of these aspects. Okay, few of these aspects. Next, mutual delegation of functions, very important. So now we saw that union list subjects will be implemented by center, state list subjects will be implemented by state, concurrent list subjects by default they will be implemented by state, but if the central law explicitly mentions that center has to implement, then center will implement it. Again, I'll just take those examples itself. So defense, health, education. Okay. Health and education. Now, legislative powers, can they be delegated from states to center? It means a law on health can be made by the center. Yes, they can be made by the center. So already we have seen the various different cases wherein a law on state subject can be made by the center. Next, my question is, can a law on defense be made by a state legislature? For example, on a subject called as defense, can Karnataka state legislature make a law? No. Okay, no. So when it comes to legislative delegation, then from center to states, it is not possible. That is why a law on defense cannot be made by any state. But whether it is possible for a state to delegate a matter to center, yes, we have seen various examples. And among those various examples, we have seen that when two or more states request the center, then center can make a law on the state subject. But similarly here, single state to center, no, not possible. So already we have discussed about this topic. So you can just go back to our previous class videos and you can get a clarity on the same. Next, very important, executive powers delegation. So compared to delegation, executive powers delegation, it is bit liberal. So it happens both ways, from center to state as well as from state to center. So first let us look into two cases, first and third one. Okay, first and third one. So in the first case, who will delegate? President will delegate. In the second case, who will delegate? Parliament will delegate. So what president and parliament, what they will delegate? They will delegate the executive powers. They will delegate the executive powers to states. For example, let us take Karnataka itself as an example. Karnataka itself as an example. When it comes to defense, related implementation, whether Karnataka government is has the power to implement defense related things? No, because defense falls under list 1. But now president can specify that defense related things, Karnataka will implement it. Similarly, parliament can say that defense related things, Karnataka will implement it. Okay, Karnataka will implement it. Then what is the difference? If president and parliament, both of them can delegate the powers to the state government, then what is the difference? The difference is that whenever president is delegating the executive powers to the state, then president has to take permission of state government. Okay, so permission is required. So whenever president is delegating the executive powers to state government, he has to take the permission of the state government, and then itself he can delegate. But when it comes to parliament, it can delegate to state government. Without state government's permission. Without permission. So here what we understood, from president to state we can delegate, but with permission. But when we are delegating from parliament to the states, so we do not require permission. So when parliament is delegating, it means parliament will make a law and ask the states to implement. So here in the second case, we do not require states permission. So from center to state, it happens in 2 ways. One is through consent, another one is forcefully. Now when it comes to state to center, from governor to central government. When I say governor, it means state government to central government. Yes, powers can be delegated. It means, let us take example of health. So a state government will ask the central government to implement health related things. But here, when it is being delegated, it will not happen through force. Always permission is required. So without permission, it cannot be delegated. So here what we understood, when it comes to executive powers delegation from center to state, it can happen through both consent as well as force. But when it comes to delegation from state to center, it can happen only through consent, and it cannot happen forcefully. Next. So there are few constitutional provisions which ensure the cooperation between the center and the states. Okay. So there are few constitutional provisions, just we shall look into them. So our constitution provides for adjudication with respect to use, distribution, control of interstate river and river valley. So majority of the disputes that arise between the states, so that disputes will be regarding the river water sharing. So as this matter is very, very sensitive, so parliament has got the power to adjudicate on such matters. So when the parliament adjudicates, so what it ensures? It ensures a type of cooperation between the center and the states. Okay. So this is one constitutional provision. Next, president can, very important, P indicates president can establish interstate council under article number 263. So here interstate council is the constitutional body under article number 263. So what will be the goal of interstate council? If there are any areas of dispute between states, then this interstate council will try to overcome those differences. Okay. In this way, it will try to maintain harmony. So in this way, it will enhance the cooperation between the center and the states. Okay. Next, full faith and credit to public acts, records, judicial proceedings, center or state. So let us try to understand this with the help of an example. Now let us assume in Karnataka High Court, a case is going on. So for this case, somewhere in Punjab, some government office document is there. Some document is there. So this document will act as a proof in the case which is running in Karnataka High Court. So can we produce this document in the Karnataka High Court? Can Karnataka High Court say no? Okay, no. So this is a full faith and credit. So whatever the public acts, records, judicial proceedings that have taken place in any part of the India, so that has full value and full faith in other parts of India as well. Okay, and they have to get full respect. So this ensures what? Cooperation between the center and the states. Next, Parliament appoints appropriate authority to ensure interstate freedom of trade, commerce and intercourse. So whenever there is the interstate trade or commerce, then definitely there are chances of disputes arising. In order to overcome those disputes, we require an authority which will handle these disputes. So who has the power to appoint such kind of authority? Parliament has the power to appoint such kind of authority which tries to overcome the differences with respect to interstate freedom of trade, commerce and intercourse. Next, in order to ensure cooperation between the center and the states, we also have all India services. All India services. So Indian administrative service, Indian police service. So they occupy the top positions or key position under both the center and the states in turn. So we have seen IAS officers, they will be working at the both central level as well as state level. Few of the IAS officers who are at state level, for few years they will be delegated to the, or they will be deputed to the center. So they work at both state as well as central level. So who will recruit the all India service officers? So they are recruited and trained by the center, jointly by the center and the states. What is meant by controlled jointly by the center and the states? It means some control lies with the center and some control lies with the states, but the ultimate control lies with the center. So when it comes to removal of all India service officer like IAS officer, who has that power? Only center has that power. State government cannot remove an IAS officer. Then what the state government can do with respect to a IAS officer? State government can transfer an IAS officer. So this is immediate control. Okay, state governments have the power to transfer an IAS officer but cannot remove them, but whereas central government with certain provisions, it can even remove the IAS officers, that is all India services officers. So previously, still 1947, IAS was called as ICS, Indian Civil Services. Similarly, IPS was called as Indian Police. Next, in 1966, one more service was created, IFS was created as third all India service. Next, who has the power to create all India services? Very important. So Rajya Sabha resolution. Rajya Sabha will pass a resolution and by passing resolution, it will authorize Parliament. It will authorize Parliament to create all India service. Okay, to create all India service. So here what we need to remember is, who can create an all India service? Parliament. But Parliament, whether automatically it can create an all India service? No. First, Parliament has to be empowered. Who will empower Parliament? Rajya Sabha will empower the Parliament. Okay, by passing a resolution. Okay, passing a resolution. Next. So why do we require all India services? So a single service with common rights and status and uniform scales of pay throughout the country. So an IAS officer who is present in Karnataka and the IAS officer who is present in the state of Arunachal Pradesh or Punjab or Kerala, so all of them, they will be enjoying the same rights, same status and same salary. So in this way, we can ensure uniformity of administration. Okay, uniformity of administration. But on the other hand, all India services, they also violate the principles of federalism, restrict autonomy and patronage of the state. So when we create all India services, so immediate control lies with the states, but the ultimate control lies with the center. So it violates the principles of federalism because states do not have complete autonomy as far as all India service officers are considered. As state governments cannot remove the all India service officers, so it to some extent it restricts the autonomy of the state. Okay, but it helps in maintaining high standard of administration throughout the country. Next, apart from that, how cooperation is achieved between center and the state? Few more examples. So when it comes to public service commissions, so in detail we will be discussing in the forthcoming classes about the various public service commissions like UPSC and state public service commissions and all, but at the superficial level. So when it comes to UPSC and state public service commission, so recruiting bodies at the center and state respectively, so they consist of many members as well as chairman. So chairman and members of state public service commission, they are appointed by governor. But they can be removed only by president. Very important. Okay. So it means the control exists between both center as well as state. Appointed by governor, but removed only by president. Next, Parliament can establish joint state public service commission for two or more state legislatures request chairman and members appointed by president. For example, now generally Karnataka will be having its own public service commission. Next, Tamil Nadu will be having its own public service commission. But if two or more states request the center that we want a joint state public service commission, then center can create a joint public service commission. So when such a joint public service commission is being created, its chairman and its members will be appointed by president. Normally they'll be appointed by governor, but when it's a joint state public service commission, then the chairman and members will be appointed by president. Okay, president. Next, Union Public Service Commission. It also serves the states which need its services. So let us assume Karnataka wants the services of UPSC. So what Karnataka can do? The governor of Karnataka can request president that we want to use the services of UPSC. So if president approves it, then UPSC will start extending its support to Karnataka in the conduction of examination and all. So such provision exists in the constitution. Next, similarly, UPSC assists when requested by 2 or more states in framing and operating schemes of joint recruitment for any services. So when 2 or more states request, then UPSC may also assist the states in framing the joint framework, how to conduct the examination and all those things. UPSC will extend the support. Next, when it comes to judiciary, it is integrated. Okay, it is integrated. So when it comes to legislature, it is not integrated. So center can make laws on few subjects, state can make laws on few subjects. When it comes to judiciary, it is integrated because Supreme Court at the top and they can enforce both central laws as well as state laws. Supreme Court can enforce central law, Supreme Court can enforce state laws. High Court can enforce central laws, High Court can enforce state laws. Also, judges of High Court, they are appointed by President in consultation with the Chief Justice of India and Governor of the state. Similarly, High Court judges can be transferred and removed only by President. Next, Parliament can establish a common High Court for 2 or more states. Parliament can establish a common High Court. Okay. So an example is Chandigarh High Court, which is common for both Punjab as well as Haryana. Next, relation during emergencies. So in a topic called as emergency, we'll be discussing about 3 different types of emergency. One is national emergency, another one is president's rule, and the third one is financial emergency. So when we start discussing about these topics, we'll be discussing in detail, but here we shall just look into the superficial level. So whether during national emergency, state government is suspended? No, state government is not suspended. So what does it mean? It means Council of Ministers will remain in office. Okay, will remain in office. But they will not work according to their wish, but they have to work as per the directions of the center. Central Council of Ministers, whatever the directions they give, so according to that, a state government has to work during national emergency. Okay, so which can be declared under article number 352. Next, when it comes to president's rule, so state government is suspended. We'll be discussing again later. State government will be suspended. So then who will be performing the role of state government? Governor. So governor will act as per the directions of the president. So again in detail we'll be discussing in the forthcoming classes. Next, during financial emergency, so center can direct the states to observe canons of financial propriety. It means center can ask the states to spend wisely. So it can even include reducing the salary of important personalities, including salaries of High Court judges also. Okay, High Court judges also. So all these things we'll be discussing when we discuss about emergency provisions. Next, other provisions. Article number 355 imposes 2 duties on center: to protect state whenever external aggression and internal. So center has the responsibility of protecting the state whenever an external aggression or attack on India and internal disturbance as well. Next, government of every state accordance with the provisions of the constitution. So the government of every state has to be maintained as per the provisions of the constitution. So this is the responsibility which lies on the center. Next, governor of a state is appointed by president. Very important. So how long the governor will stay in his office? As long as he enjoys the pleasure of the president. It means as long as president is happy, governor will stay in his office. Next, who is constitutional head of state? It is not chief minister, but it is governor. Okay. Next, governor is agent of the center in state. Very important. Very important. Next, governor, he periodically reports to the center about the administrative affairs of state, how the administration is running in the state. So all this information will be presented to the center by the governor. Next, state election commission appointed by governor but can be removed only by president. Okay. So later on we'll be discussing about state election commission as well. So the chairman and the members of the election commission can be appointed by governor, but when it comes to removal, only president has that power. Next, there are few extra constitutional devices that have been mentioned. So all those devices are not important from the examination point of view. So just you can ignore those devices. Okay, we'll just ignore those devices. So in this class, we discussed about the administrative or executive relations between the center and the states. Similarly, in the next class, we will be continuing with the next part of the center-state relations. For all our further updates, subscribe to our channel and hit on the bell icon. Thank you.